This is Coach Jason Ballard, and I'm a business wingman. Over the years, I've learned a lot from working in our family construction business, serving as a senior officer in the United States Air Force, and running 12 different organizations around the world. Many people helped me get to where I am today, and it's my mission in life to serve as a personal wingman to others. That's what this podcast is all about, providing knowledge, tools, resources, and mentorship to help people soar to their highest altitude. Welcome back to the Soar Higher podcast. This is your host, Coach Jason Ballard. It's a pleasure to be with you today. And we've got a really exciting show for you, just like we do every week, but it's going to be extra special today. We've got an amazing guest that's going to be talking about something that's critical to your success, but most people don't really think about it. Today, we're going to be talking about personal branding, how to make you the best representation of you, and how important that is, not only for yourself and your own career and how you're presenting yourself to people, but just how you walk, you talk, how you think, how people perceive you. It's one thing to look in the mirror every day and appreciate all that you are, but it's another thing to understand how other people perceive you. And if those types of things are different than maybe what's going through your mind as you are thinking about yourself, then you could have some challenges there. And a lot of people don't think about this. I hear about this and talk about this a lot with my clients. When it comes to their promotions and when they're being considered for higher level roles, especially in the senior management roles, those director, VP, C-suite kind of roles, your personal brand of how you lead, how you show up matter. And today we've got an expert on the show in personal branding. I know her really well. She's helped me in many ways, kind of really showcase everything about me, my strengths, and the things that I'm good at, and how to help people through my business as an integrated brand, my personal brand as well as my business brand. She is excellent. At the end of this show, you're going to really fully understand all the dynamics of really what a brand is, more than you probably ever thought you would ever even associate with branding. And so you can go out and present yourself in the best way possible so you can win and be more successful. So today we have the honor and the privilege of having my good friend Coral Abood on the show. Welcome to the show, Coral.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for that warm introduction.
Well, Coral is an amazing young lady. She's not only just talented, she's got the personality. She's got just an awesome business, and she's really plain and simple helped so many people level up and really break through all the noise out there that goes on in the world, and really break through and showcase themselves in the best possible way. You know, Coral, you're affiliated with marketing. In the marketing domain, people are exposed, average everyday Joe people in the public are exposed to over 5,000 impressions of things a day, advertisements, social media, television, radio. It's in your face every day. And so
It's wild. Yeah.
if you are a solopreneur, entrepreneur, an executive in an organization, how do you break through that, right? Even if you're an employee and you're putting in for a promotion, 500 other people are putting in for that promotion too. How do you break through that as a business or an individual and be successful? So, Coral, excited to get into this discussion with you. But first and foremost, let's learn about you. Tell everybody a little bit about you, what you do, and why you do it.
Wow. Well, like Jason said, my name is Coral, and I am Louisville's only woman-owned strategic corporate photographer, but I also am a brand strategist. So, like Jason said, I help businesses, thought leaders, solopreneurs do just exactly that, stand out from their competitors. Yeah, I mean, that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I'm all about brand. I get passionate about it. So buckle up. We're going to get into some juicy stuff this episode.
Coral, if you haven't noticed, has just an amazing personality. She's a ball of energy, a ball of just positivity, and I just have so much fun when I'm with her, and all of her clients, just rave about her. It's one thing to work with people, and it's another thing to work with people that really are a lot of fun to work with. You like being around them, and Coral is certainly one of those people. So,
Thank
just
you.
awesome. I know everybody that listens to the show is going to get a lot out of this. So let's talk about personal branding. What in the heck is personal branding?
I mean, I wish I could put it out in one sentence, but I mean, if I had to try to explain that to someone who maybe it was a brand new concept to them, I would say that it is your reputation.
Hmm.
It is the reputation that you already have. People say, well, do I need a personal brand? You already have a personal brand. You have a reputation in the community, in the workplace that is similar to, that is the same as your personal brand in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, people ask me about this because we get into various business conversations about the brand of the business,
Mhm.
and people are an extension of the brand, right? They're wearing
Mhm.
company
Mhm.
shirts. You can see today, I've got a shirt that has my company logo on it, right? When you walk around the grocery store, Walmart, taking your kid to soccer practice, people see the shirt, they see the brand, the logo. Is it clean? Is it dirty? Is it grimy? Is it nasty? Is it a cool
Right.
looking brand? How do you behave when you're representing the brand? Right? Are you
Right.
nice and friendly and
Right.
and and all of that? Are you mean and hateful and a jerk?
Mhm.
Right? People affiliate that brand. When you think of the brand Enron, what do you think of with Enron, right? It's negativity, it's
Mhm.
scandals, it's you know when you think of the brand of Disney, the Magic Kingdom, Disney World, and Mickey Mouse, people think, oh, positive, magical experience, right? Brand matters.
Well, most consumers, if you ask them what they think brand is, they think it's their logo.
Yep.
So that's why there's confusion between how can I have a personal brand? I don't have a logo. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah,
your brand is more than just your logo. It's more than just your color palette. It's the overall experience of everything that's going in and out through the vessels of your business, whether it's the brand experience that your customers have with your company or it's the brand experience that your employees are having. We call that company culture. That's a buzzword that's becoming more and more understood, right? But that's all brand. That all has to be defined in your original brand standards. So when you put it in terms of a business, I think people can kind of make that connection. Oh, it's not a logo, it is everything, right? All the way down to your reviews on Google. What is our reputation? People are describing the experience that they're having with your company. That's why people read reviews. That's all a part of your brand. So they get a little bit confused about how you could take a concept like that and make it into a personal brand, right? That's what I see time and time again is, well, my company has a brand, but how do I have a brand? And that's where I would say it really is kind of a reputation, right? Like you're multi-dimensional. Are you always late to stuff? Do people just kind of know that you're going to be late? Or do you have a signature fragrance that you wear all the time? People are always commenting on. Or do people say positive things about you, like, oh, they're just a breath of fresh air, or all of these types of things. How do you carry yourself? How do you speak in front of an audience? What are your goals? Are you the same, out of work as you are in work? All of this is a multidimensional concept of a personal brand, which we all have. But your challenge to the CEOs and the business leaders of the world is to get intentional with their personal brand, right?
that's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, how many people, you do this for a living, how many people would you say really truly understand what personal branding is? When you start talking with them,
Mhm.
is it 50% get it, 50% don't, 80% don't get it, 30% do? What? How
That's a
many
good
people
question.
get it? How many people don't when you're talking with them?
I would say once in maybe the last 3 years, someone has come to me and said, I want to create a personal brand. And what they're meaning, what they actually meant was help me start my solo practice. Right? Like, but they already have a brand, but I know what they're saying. Help me get this together formally. And that's what I love to help people do. Yeah, outside of working with businesses, I do work with a lot of solopreneurs. So someone who's running their own business, just themselves, maybe a couple of assistants, but for the most part, it's just them and their business, executing their service, creating their product. But I also have some thought leaders that I work with. That could be someone who's just needing to stay ahead of their competition on LinkedIn. If you, to any of our listeners, if you are on LinkedIn more than once a week, you need to call me because you obviously know that LinkedIn matters, right? And you're on there either looking for people to connect with or hoping to be found. There's something going on that you're networking on LinkedIn. But actually, I have several clients that are kind of more in that influencer category. They are public speakers. A couple of them are world travelers as public speakers. They're authors, they're podcasters, they're different people who they're really just kind of a thought leader. They're sort of cornering this creative space where they themselves are the product, right? They are the service. So yeah, pretty much anyone and anything already has a brand, but to get intentional with it, to focus on bringing out the best parts of that and then using it to attract our audience. I guess that's what we call the branding process.
It is. That's right. Well, most people, if I'm out and about, and I coach people all over the world, and so this, I think, generally speaking, this is true when I engage people. I'd say probably 75%, give or take a point or two, really don't understand personal branding, the value of it, how it works, how it integrates in with everything in their life and in their career, their business, whatever that may be. Only about 70% don't really get it. They kind of get it. They think about it in one or two dimensions, but not holistically, right? So if you're out there listening and you're one of the 25% that, or I'm sorry, the 75% that are maybe kind of iffy there, here's a couple of questions. Can you right now take out a piece of paper and a pen and write down on however many pieces of paper you need, can you write down all the aspects of what your brand is? If we said, describe your personal brand in excruciating detail to the point where we can hand it over to a police sketch artist and they can draw a picture of you and what you look like, could you do that? And if you cannot do that, you don't understand personal branding. But if you have aspirations of being in management and leadership, running a business, taking your career to the next level, you need to understand it. So that's question number one. Question number two is, are you on LinkedIn? If the answer is yes, great. What is your brand? If you give me in Coral a link to your LinkedIn profile page in the first 5 seconds, what's going to jump out at us?
We could have a part 2 episode where we roast some brands. We roast some personal brands.
Well,
if people want to submit themselves, we can give you a little roast. Free advice, right?
I can look at somebody's LinkedIn page for about 5 seconds. I'll look at it, scroll up, down. I'll have an instant like, yep, they claim to be a VP, but they look like, JV, worker bee, right? They haven't updated it in years. There's no logo of the company they work for. It's not even fully filled out. It's an old picture from when they were 16 at the prom or something, right?
It's like just some selfie with sunglasses on somebody's boat, It's like
yeah, exactly.
Random.
It's not a good brand. It's like, well, if you know your brand, then is your LinkedIn page reflecting that? Because everybody looks you up on LinkedIn, whether you're getting a promotion, you're changing jobs, or your people, customers are looking you up from, before they meet with you at a place where you're going to meet together. That matters. So is your
Mhm.
LinkedIn profile like dynamite, the best it can be? If not, you don't understand branding, and you need to.
Mhm.
You need help. You
Mhm.
need to figure this out. Another thing is your resume. Now, LinkedIn is kind of an online resume, but what about your like PDF resume, your Word document resume? What does that say?
Mhm.
How does that look?
Mhm.
How are you presenting yourself when you present yourself? Coral, from your experience, when you look at people's LinkedIn, when you look at people's resumes and some of the stuff
Mhm.
on and offline, what's typical that you see out there?
That's a good question. What I typically see in CVs is just a lot of words. A
Hmm.
lot of words that is not necessarily going to distinguish them from the other 50 applications on the pile. Um, Same thing with the LinkedIn's. Maybe they have an updated LinkedIn. It's not imperative that they are, using LinkedIn like a crazy person. But as long as they're updated, that's going to unfortunately set you apart from the other stack of resumes. But the thing that's going to most powerfully impact any audience that you're in front of, whether it's an interview or whatnot, is going to be your presence. It's going to be the way that you show up in that time and in that space together. And that's where your personal brand really has an opportunity to shine.
So why, I mean, if this is such a big deal, why aren't more people engaging in it and care more about it?
Mhm.
Um, why do you feel people don't make this an important focal point for themselves? What is your
Mhm.
expert opinion on that?
My opinion is that while LinkedIn has been around for a while, um, it's being used differently now. People are using the internet different, and the jobs are different. Just post pandemic, people are changing jobs left and right. They're working from home. I mean, I think that there was more of a you get in your career and you stay there. That's just what you do for your whole life. And then in the recent decade, it's we're changing all the time. We see serial entrepreneurs. We see people who want to do the same role in a series of different, high end positions. There's a lot of changing that happens that didn't used to happen in the last generation. There was a get your job, kind of stay there. So there's a lot of fluidity in where people are working and what they're doing. And in addition to that, because there is so much noise, the one-on-one interpersonal networking has dramatically shifted. I mean, it used to be spend money on flyers, and if depending on your industry, that might still be the right thing for you. But a lot of industries are no, you need to start going to networking groups, especially if you want to be an influencer, especially if you're wanting to get in front of people. You quite literally have to know now go and get in front of people. And so there's this sort of outward facing opportunity pressure that the dynamic has just shifted. People just used to sit behind their computers and email their resumes. And now you have to get out there. So in some way, I think that's harder for all the introverts of the world because the standard has shifted. You can no longer just submit your resume. You have to start getting out there. But I think it's a really powerful shift. Um, I mean, that's how I would answer your question. I
Yeah,
think that's really where it comes from. Is we're doing business different. We're much more
yeah,
relational, which is pretty profound considering we're definitely more into our medias now than we used to be. So,
right. Yeah, that's some great observations. I want to follow that up with, how has like COVID, post COVID types of dynamics
mhm.
changed the dynamic for people in their brand, how they think about their personal brand, and how that may need to be thought differently. What are your
Yeah.
kind of takeaways on some of these last couple of years of changes?
Yeah. Yeah. Good question. When I would talk with people, because I've been doing this well over a decade, when I would talk with people before 2020, they didn't understand the word brand. So I would have to break it down into their reputation, their image, their experience, all that kind of stuff. And with the way that everyone went online and the way that influencers exploded across, I mean,
Hmm.
the invention of TikTok. I mean, people are billionaires because they get on TikTok, right? There's this whole influencer concept. That's a big word that wasn't there before, right? That has sort of helped people understand personal brand. And then the branding word, I don't know that personal brand is as much of a buzzword as brand is. And so, in a way, it's been helpful because everyone's kind of cluing into this at the same time. But from my perspective, that's really where it's coming from. Is it really actually starts with conversations around this phenomenon. You ask 10-year-olds, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And they say, "Oh, I want to be a YouTube influencer," and your jaw hits the floor. There's so many conversations about that that then a lot of corporate America is going, "Oh." And
Yeah.
they're kind of putting it together, and then there's media about it now, and they're selling you brands left and right and all that. So it's kind of been a way for people to, I don't want to say take advantage of, I think it was a natural thing that happened with the pandemic, with everyone needing to go virtual and a lot of people leaving their jobs and saying, "Oh my God, if I survive COVID, I have one life to live. What am I going to do with it? I don't think I want to stay in this job. Maybe I'll start a business," right?
Yeah.
I mean, the job change situation post pandemic is wild. So, for all the different reasons, people are just totally open to new ideas. And personal brand influencer has just been in the headlines and it's become a buzzword. And like I said, I think that's trickling down into corporate America, and people are starting to go, "Wait, this me? I have a personal, what do I need to do? What?" And I think that's
Yeah.
that's why this podcast is so valuable, because they need to kind of be able to just candidly talk to someone about, what is this? Do I need to invest some time in this or not? What are some small things I could do? What are some big things I should do? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, something I've seen too. I'm going to kind of piggyback off something you said from the pandemic. W- the pandemic created the great resignation, and it created everybody working from home and social distancing and all this kind of stuff. And so I saw this trend of people getting more relaxed, right? There's even like commercials. I remember there's like was it Folgers or Maxwell Howe, one of the coffee manufacturers out there, had this commercial, had a guy had like a coat on and a tie, and the best part of waking up, I think it was Folgers in your cup,
Yeah.
right? And it zoomed in, and the guy, there was an issue with his camera, and he leaned up and he's sitting there and he's got the suit on, so from the waist up he looks like he's Mr. Formal Business Guy. When he stands up, he's like sitting in his boxers, and they're like, "Adjust
Right.
that camera up high." It was hilarious.
Yeah.
It was but people
That's
kind
awesome.
of, they kind of got, I want to say, lazier, right? There was like this relaxed kind of thing where people are in their pajamas, they're on Zoom calls, they wear clothes like we do, but they're sitting there in their,
Mhm.
pajama bottoms, or their socks or whatever, and just kind of chill. And it's like people, the need for people gave the impression to people like they didn't have to take as much like pride, like, "Hey, I'm going to work from home, I'm calling the shots, and I'm just going to leave if I can't work the way I want to work with you. We're going to leave and go to this other company that's going to let me be virtual and sit around in my wrinkled up t-shirts all day and get on Zoom calls and do whatever." And so as that transition happened and we evolved, I think the need for personal branding even kind of exploded out of some of that, right? In addition to some of the things you're
Mhm.
talking about. So let's shift gears. We've been talking about personal branding, the challenges around it, why it's important. We've defined it, as not only as a logo, not only as like the colors you display or the colors you wear, but it's really about all these other things: how you walk,
Mm.
how you talk, how you
Mhm.
show up. Are
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
I know a guy that shows up to meetings and he never combs his hair and his clothes are wrinkled, looks like he slept in them. And the brand is sloppy, doesn't have it together, not organized, doesn't care enough to present himself very well. That's the guy's
Mhm.
brand, right?
The
I know.
aesthetic, that's his aesthetic, right? Yeah.
Right,
Mhm.
right. Like you said, do you show up late to meet? Are you when people think
Mhm.
of you and your name, what immediately pops in people's minds? Is it, oh,
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
the boss is in, everybody listen up, the boss is here, we're ready to go, right? Or is it,
Mhm.
oh geez, we're 15 minutes late again? Are you the person that makes
Right.
excuses all the time? Are you the person that gossips at the water cooler all the time? What
Right.
do people
Right.
affiliate with you? What is your brand? More importantly, what should be your brand? And is there a
Right.
disconnect
Right.
between your brand and what you really
Mhm.
should be and could be that maxes your potential versus what people may think of you today? If there's a gap there, you need to really pay attention to the next part of this show. Coral, let's start
Absolutely.
breaking down and talking about how to
Mhm.
create a brand. What is step one in this
Mhm.
process of starting to create your personal brand?
Mm. I want to comment on all that other stuff you just said, but no,
Well, feel
you're the
free.
boss of the show. I was just, well, I think I'll get there. I think I'll get there. Step one is, I mean, reaching out, right? If you have the awareness that you're going, oh, wow, I think I need to be intentional with this, that's it. You've checked the box. Step one. Making the decision, I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to explore this anyways, right? Um, so if I was to guide someone through this, just say we're doing this through this podcast here, Jason. If they were to sit with me, my first question is going to be, okay, but why? Why are you doing this? What are your goals? That's what I want to have a conversation about. If someone wants to spend all this time and energy and pump it into their LinkedIn, okay, but why? Are you trying to get a new job? Are you trying to get a promotion? Are you trying to, what is the goal that you have? So I would start with that. Um, and then we move into the two most basic components to any person or business's brand, which is going to be what they authentically have to offer and who is their audience. Understanding those two things is how we create a message that's going to powerfully and uniquely communicate what you have, but also do it in a way that is attractive to your audience, right? Like, we don't want to be putting out a message that appeals to the masses. First of all, I'm not really sure that's possible. But if you did, you wouldn't have a defined audience, right? And again, you're just kind of caught up in the noise. So if you have a defined audience, then I guarantee you they have a defined way that they like to be talked to,
That's
or they
right.
have things that they're attracted to. And so part of your brand is understanding them and talking to them in a way that they will hear you and you'll cut through the noise. And the other part of the brand is making sure that what you are sharing is totally and completely authentic to what you have to offer, because that's what makes you unique from your competitors. No one starts up a business and says, you know what, I think I'm going to do the same thing my neighbor's doing.
Right.
No, they have an idea. They think they can do something a little bit better or a little bit different or a little bit niched or something, right? Yeah. So the same concepts can be applied to the person.
So I'm going to say this differently. So, step one, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Coral, step one is, who the heck are you? Who are you?
If you're
What
putting
are
any
your
question for me, perfect.
Yeah, like what are your God-given
Mhm.
talents? What are you really truly good at? If you don't know, then you need to work with somebody that can help you figure that out. But really, who are you? What makes you different? Some people are smarter than other people. Some people are extroverts, some people are introverts, some people are good people. They're like you, Coral. They're bubbly and energetic, and they're, people like being around them. Some people are quiet, more thinkers, but they're very creative. Some people are athletic, some people are more technical, more analytical, right? What makes you different? If you really were to sit down, and I do this, I have an exercise when I work with clients on these similar kinds of things differently than you do. Who am I? Who the heck are you? What defines you? Uh, are you a dad? Are you a husband? Are you a sibling? Are you a Christian or some other faith based? Are you a leader? Are you a doctor, a lawyer? Right? Trying to really break that down into very
Mhm.
microscopic aspects of, really, who are you? What do you like to do? What are your hobbies? What are your God-given talents that make you different than other people? I think that clarity can be a really great place to start. Did I kind of summarize that correctly, or did I not?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as far as the individual goes, yeah, what makes them unique? Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the same goes for businesses too, though, right? If you really think
Hmm.
about it,
Hmm.
who the heck are we as company X? Who are we? What do we do?
Hmm.
Why are
Hmm.
we different?
Hmm.
How do we distinguish ourselves? I think the same kind of questions are valid there as well. All right. So that's step number one, kind of figuring out who you are. But what's step number two? When you're trying to think about your brand and establish the brand or even level up the brand, what's next? What's this process?
So they have something that they are wanting to. They have a message that they're wanting to communicate. They have some why for why they're wanting to have a brand in the first place. Why are we doing this? Are we wanting to be, are we just wanting to have a polished LinkedIn, or are we wanting to be an influencer and travel the world, speaking on stage? I think that shifting the how is the individual unique to how is my message unique? Why am I taking this step to create a personal brand from kind of the more business standpoint? Like, why? What are the goals there?
So you're talking like the end state, like what is it all for, right? If you're a business or an
Mhm.
individual trying to create
Mhm.
this brand, especially an individual, what is it all for? You create the brand to achieve what? What's the end state, right? What
Mhm. Mhm.
are you aspiring to be a CEO? Are you aspiring to be a business owner?
Mhm.
What is the brand really about?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. Why are we doing this? Yeah. And then the
yeah.
next thing would be, who are you wanting to appeal to? Who's your
Hmm.
audience? Who are they? I have clients who their audience are baby boomers. I have clients whose audience are Gen Z. I have clients whose audience are very specifically niche to, 50 to 60 middle-aged women. I have clients, I mean,
Hmm.
the audiences can just become extremely niched, down to who you're wanting to get in front of, who you're wanting to attract. So that must
Hmm.
flow from the bigger question of why am I doing this, right?
Okay.
Because if you're just wanting a lateral job change to another company, then your audience is to appeal to the decision makers. So
Awesome.
the
Yeah.
why is the most fundamental thing, and then from that we build our brand, which is going to be part your authenticity and part who is your audience. And we craft a powerful. Once we understand those two things, then we craft a message to our audience that is just going to totally cut through the noise, knock them out of the park.
Yeah. Okay.
And then when we have that message, we may keep going. And then we have that message, we say, how does this flesh out? Okay, if you're wanting to communicate, Jason, let's use you as a little case study here. Jason
All right.
is one of my favorite people. I'm always using him for a case study here. Okay. So Jason's goal, I think it'll be easier for people if we just flesh it out. Jason's
Yep.
goal is to help companies be the best that they can be. He wants to take companies to a whole new elevation that they never thought that they could be. He loves to see companies be successful from the top all the way down. And he cares about the people. That's his why. Okay. So then you have Jason's brand, which is going to be part Jason, part his audience. Jason is disciplined. Jason is brilliant. He's creative. He's a good coach. He has a crazy mile-long list of attributes that make him the guy that he is. If you spend any time sitting with him in sessions or listening to his podcast, you're getting this energy from your time with Jason. You know that you know without a shadow of a doubt, he's going to get you where you want to go, right? And he's going to do it with passion because he's your wingman. He gets behind you. He's like, we're doing this together, right? So that's his concept. Here's how I'm going to be a different kind of coach than other coaches. And then his audience is decision makers, CEOs, the top of the top. He wants to be sitting with the business owners. He wants to be sitting with everybody in the top table of the conference room. That's who he wants to sit with, right? So then we craft a message that talks about how Jason is going to be different than his competitors, using language that is attractive to his audience. But more than that, because CVs don't sell, Jason has to be authentic in his brand in every single aspect, which he does, which is why I'm using him as a case study. So we've got his pictures, he's got his colors, he's got his vibe in all of his pictures, his website, his social media, everything is consistent. This is what I was going to touch on earlier. The key to a strong brand, you can have a beautifully thought out brand and it can be absolutely poorly executed. The key to a strong brand is going to be consistency. Whether you have 2 platforms or 1 platform or 12 platforms, they've got to be consistent. So like you were using earlier with the example of the person who shows up a little frumpy, you're like, are they even like with us right now? Well, maybe that guy stands up and puts out this incredible thing that you're just like, whoa, I wasn't even like sure you were awake, homie. Like you look like you just rolled out of bed. But he was actually an amazing public speaker. You're confused by this, right? We laugh, but it happens. And the point I'm trying to make is that anytime there is confusion, you've lost your audience. It doesn't matter to me that you're saying all these magical words. If you're looking all frumpy, I'm still like, I don't really get what you're about. And that's really where that's where it ends. I'm probably not gonna try to find out. Right?
Yeah, that's
right. Because
there's
a mix match. There's a misunderstanding, like if you were amazing on your podcast all the time, but showing up at meetings, like you just really didn't care, right? Like you're being inconsistent in your brand and how you're showing up. So is that kind of helping to show like the execution? You craft that message and then you have to execute with consistency. I met a woman recently who is a mannerisms coach.
Mannerisms coach. Okay.
She will observe you. She will observe you and she will critique you on the way that you sit and the way that you stand and the way that you speak. And she will coach you in a very kind and gentle way. She's very sweet. Wow. But what a powerful skill that she's offering people. A lot of people need that, right?
Yeah. Mannerisms, speak louder than words, right? I had a guy tell me one time, he's a coach as well. And he's like, look, when you're engaging with people and you're listening and you're not talking and the other person's, and you're engaged in conversation, one of the best ways you can indicate to people that you are really into what they're saying is when you look down at your feet and see which direction your feet are pointed. If your feet are pointed in the direction of the person sitting in front of you, like you and I right now, my feet are directly in front of the screen and we're locked in and engaged, right? If I was turned over here and my feet was pointing this direction, I'm like, yeah, that's cool, Coral. Yeah. Great point. Nice. Right. It just visually presents like I'm not engaged with you. I'm over here and you're over here.
It's disrespectful. Right? Yeah. There's all these subtleties. Yeah. You always know when you're on the phone with someone and they're not listening anymore. You always know.
Yeah.
You always know.
That's exactly right.
There is no guessing, when they've started doing something else, right?
Yeah.
It's the same. It's glaringly obvious when you're not paying attention if you're in a public space. It's like I tell people all the time with their social media, either use it or lose it. I don't want to see any dormant platforms out there. It's hurting you more than it is helping you to just be out there.
Right.
And it's the same thing. If you can't show up in public and represent, just don't. If you're having a bad day, just cancel. Like
Yeah.
it's more harmful to your brand to show up in such a dramatically inconsistent way. It breaks trust, which is really what all this comes down to, is consumer trust.
Right.
That's how a brand works, right? We're going to know you, we're going to like you, and we're going to trust you,
Yeah.
whether it's a company or an individual.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the kind words. You didn't need to use me as an example. I promise, for all the listeners, I did not pay her to do that. I didn't ask her to do that. She
No, he did it. No,
voluntarily
he did
did
it.
that, and I wasn't expecting it, but I'm okay with it. What I learned through that process, just, kind of the other side of this example that you just gave using me, is, what I learned from you is you've got to obviously be genuine about who you are and be
Mhm.
honest with who you are, not try to, be somebody you're not, like an imposter syndrome kind of situation, but
Right.
also honor your background, right? The things you have been through, the places you've gone, the places you've lived, the people you've had surrounding you in your life creates you, and it shapes you and the experiences you've had, which allows you to show up the way that you can best show up, right? So,
Mhm.
my brand colors are blue and silver, right? If you look at my logos
Mhm.
and things like that, all of my social media, my documents, brochures, all those kind of things are all, like Coral said, very consistently done, right? It's the same across the board, where they see those colors and they see these things, and that, oh, that's Jason. They immediately know that's
Mhm.
me and my brand, right? But I built those things off of my background. Well, a big part of my background before I was in business and coaching and all these other things was the military. I was in the Air Force, and the Air Force colors were blue, or still are, blue and silver,
Mhm.
right? I've
Mhm.
got an aviation kind of theme to my business, to the podcast, right? It's Soar higher, right? If
Mhm.
you look at the logo, there's a curved blue line and a curved silver line, right? That represents, I'm the blue line, and my clients represent the silver line. I'm flying next to them as their business wingman,
Mhm.
through their business professional journey with them, helping
Mhm.
them every step until we achieve whatever it is that they've defined
Mhm.
as the next level of success for them, right? And so you have to kind of really think through that and connect a lot of those
Mhm.
dots of your background, your history, your education, places you've been, things you've done, and really connect all that together. And
Mhm.
then obviously show up, in a consistent manner. So I think that's really powerful, Coral.
I can help you build. I've used this metaphor before. I can help you build a beautiful car, but you have to drive it, right? I can
Yeah,
build you a brand that I know for sure is going to attract your audience, but then you have to go out there and do it. You have to run
yeah,
your business. You have to be the person, right? You have to do it. And
that's right.
that's so important. That's so important, yeah, the consistency to earn that trust.
So, Coral, as we are kind of getting closer to the end of this podcast, as you've provided everybody some really powerful things to be thinking about in their brand, how they should be uh, thinking about the brand, and what that consists of, and what that could look like or not look like. Um, give give us a couple of things here. One, you've given us what I'm going to consider to be a good example of a brand, and you used me, and I'm very grateful. I appreciate that. Give us maybe an example of a bad brand,
Mm.
personal brand experience that
Mhm.
you've come across.
Right. Well, and I can give another example too that's not you for anyone who would want something. Maybe they don't know you. They're just stumbling
Yeah.
across this podcast. Well, I think you can go back and you can see that he's consistent across everything. But another good example is I would tell people to, I mean, think about your favorite celebrity.
Hmm.
I mean, you feel like you know this person, right? Like I'll use Ryan Reynolds as an example. Do any of us know him? No. But do we feel like we know him? Totally. Right? Because there's a brand that he has. There's, so that's an example of, I mean, all the celebrities do it. They'll have a certain thing that they're going for. So I would say pick a, Oprah used to be an example that I would use. Wow, right?
Yeah.
Um, as far as a bad brand experience, um, I would, I'm not going to name anyone, but what I would say is you can probably think of one pretty quick if you think about inside your company or maybe a job that you used to work at, um, where there was just inconsistency across the board, right? There's someone that um, they would behave one way and then they would email another way, or from your opinion they maybe didn't deserve their job, or there's something going on there that you are put off by.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about like brown nosers? What about people that try to show up bigger than what they really may be, or trying to present something that's not really genuine, or they're trying to jockey for
Hmm.
something that they may or may
Hmm.
not be prepared for. Any
Right.
give us some kind of telltale signs of somebody that really doesn't have their brand figured out yet.
I think the red flags of someone who doesn't have any sort of grasp on their brand is going to be someone who's just completely unaware of themselves. That person
Hmm.
who is they're just completely, they're not really going anywhere in the company. They don't have ambition. They're just completely unaware of themselves. And that doesn't necessarily make them a bad person, but they just have a big blind spot to themselves. Um,
Nice. I like
does that
that blind
answer your
spot.
question?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. Well, as we kind of wrap up the conversation, what are the benefits of a brand? If I'm sitting there and you're like, man, I've listened to this podcast and man, they've touched on some things that I'm kind of questioning about myself. I need to go look at my LinkedIn profile. I
Right.
need to go look at my closet, look at the
Mhm.
wardrobe, and I need to kind of figure out how I just got an appraisal from my boss, and he said,
Right.
he hit me up on some things I need to improve on. I'm starting to see some signs. I'm hearing some things on this podcast. Coral gave us some great tips on how to get started, and obviously you can connect with Coral on this and ask more detailed questions personalized to you. But
Mhm.
once it's all said and done, what are the benefits? Why
Right.
why do people need to do this? What do they get out of
Mm.
it? What are the benefits? What's the value?
That's a good question. Yeah, there may be someone listening that is completely content in their job, their career space, or maybe they're retired, or they don't need any of this from any sort of business perspective. I think as humans, we need to always be striving for some form of personal growth, whether we're wanting to be a
Yeah,
better listener to our loved ones or for our friends, or we're wanting, whatever our goals are in wanting to be a better human, be better relationally, whether that's loving yourself better, loving your family better, whatever those goals are. The first step to any of those goals is always to be intentional. It's always
yeah,
just to be intentional. So sometimes the inconsistency, and this is where we'll go like a little bit deep, the inconsistency of how we're physically showing up in the world can actually cause people a significant amount of shame. Really
hmm.
can. They may not really be able to put their finger on it, but if they're not really digging their wardrobe, or they always feel like, maybe they need to lose the weight, or they need to get new clothes, or, why am I just so uncomfortable when I go to events, or different things, right? There's all kinds of reasons why someone would want to kind of level up the way that they're showing up. And a lot of times it can stem from just some very subconscious shame that they're being inconsistent. Well, sometimes I say yes to my friends and then I bail at the last minute, right? The friends might get annoyed, but that's sort of getting deeper and deeper as a sore
Yeah.
spot for your own self, right? So if anything at all, it would just be to my way I would want to inspire someone. If they already were inspired and they were like, but I don't really need it from a work standpoint. Sure. But we all have opportunities to constantly be more and more intentional for how we're showing up with the people that we do care what they think.
Yeah. I'll add a couple more things to that. I think that's very powerful, very insightful, and it kind of hits, deeper than the surface, which I think,
Mm-hmm.
is really the whole point of personal branding is kind of the inside out kind of mentality.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've seen, not only with myself, but people that I've worked with, people that I know and have met and talked with, worked with in some form or fashion in my travels, is really when you have a personal brand, when you're in touch with those kind of things, you can see that a mile away because they're more confident.
Mm-hmm. There's a
They have better
self-control.
self-esteem.
Yeah.
They're just in
Mm-hmm.
control. They just walk with their head higher. There's just kind of a mojo about them that's just smooth and confident and strong, and that they're almost like unapologetic. Not to be cocky and arrogant, but there's just a swag about them. They just show
Mm-hmm.
up a certain way. They dress a certain way. They take pride in themselves more. There's a pep in the step. You can just see these types of things. They can articulate themselves better as well when they communicate on whatever topic that may be, right? There's just like a groundedness to them
Mm-hmm.
that just stands out. And I think people see that, respect that, connect to that. And that's really critical, absolutely critical. If you are a leader and you're in a position of leadership, people have to see you strong and confident. They have to be able to trust you and connect with you and respect you. And if you show up like, joy bag of snacks and not representing the team and the company or themselves well, then how, I've been an employee before. And when I had a frumpy boss show up and didn't, carry himself well, didn't talk well, didn't represent he's not representing us as the team well either. And that's kind of
Right.
discouraging and people lose respect for you. So if you're trying to be a
Mm-hmm.
leader, you got to show up, bigger and better at every stage because you're representing everybody around you, right? And you want to make
Mm-hmm.
people proud. And so take pride and dignity in yourself and that. Um, and I think you'll be better and you'll be able to, as Coral said, be more consistent in who you are. So Coral, thank you so much for being on the show. You are an awesome person. What you do is phenomenal. She does excellent photography, brand strategy, personal branding, business branding. She can take you from A to Z through this topic like nobody's. She's got an eye for this, a passion for this. I have seen nowhere else on the level that she offers it, and I'm absolutely dead serious. I'm not trying to sell her. I'm just telling you, she's straight up the best of the best that
Thank
I
you.
have ever seen in my worldly travels. So it's a real privilege to have you on the show. Thank you for taking time. Coral,
Thank you
people
for
are going to
having
be
me.
excited about this. Tell people how they can get in touch with you to learn more, talk with you, work with you.
Oh my goodness. Oh, there's a multitude of ways. Well, you can go to my website, which is willowtreeimaging.com, and you can hit contact. You can shoot me a little email. I also have a work line. You are welcome to reach out to me on that work line. It's area code 502-612-9286. So those are probably the two fastest ways to get a hold of me for sure.
Excellent. Well, we're going to put all of her contact information in the show notes of the podcast. We're going to have her on social media. We'll be tagging her, be looking out for those kind of things. There's many ways you can connect with her, and I invite you to do so. She's great. You'll love the experience. She's awesome. Thank you so much. That's all for today, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Have a good day.